right, fellow babies, welcome back. Pachter Factor 103. It's been weeks since we've been here, or it's actually been maybe 20 minutes more. Appreciate your patronage if you're watching on SIFTD and you're a Patreon patron. Shane thanks you. It pays the bills. It keeps him coming back with an extra cameraman, Sam. Thank you. And if you're not a Patreon patron, you can't afford it, I get it. Watching on YouTube, all we ask back from you is a follow at SIFTD Games, at Michael Pachter, at Annoyed Gamer. I'm joined by Ice Cold Beer, my good friend. Question 1 from Twitter, from at Stay Near. I like that name, S-T-A-E-N-I-R, Stay Near. A Japanese analyst, let's stop right there. They're just idiots. Why would you even quote a Japanese analyst? Suggested the Switch might ultimately sell 200 million units in your dreams. If Nintendo even gets close to that number, do you think it would convince Sony or Microsoft to make their own hybrid consoles? Remember, the best-selling console of all time is the PlayStation 2, and it's like 170, maybe 180. No, it's not possible. 200? Are you freaking crazy? When the PlayStation 2 sold 170 or 180, the Xbox One, the first Xbox, sold 20 million, and the GameCube sold 20 million, roughly 18 and 22, something like that. So total combined everybody 210. Last cycle total combined everybody 260. No, the Switch isn't going to sell 200 million units. There's not that many people who want one. Sorry, not even close. 100 would be a gigantic home run. That would be Wii size. I don't think they get to 100, but we'll see. But 100 would be a freaking monstrous home run. They'll get to 100 if they drop the price to $100, of course. If it stays at 300, no chance. And 200 million, not in this lifetime. Don't even go there. So yeah, if it sold 200 million, yes, everybody makes hybrid consoles. Why are we even talking about hybrid console? So Nintendo told me, and let's see if they correct this, because I may have misunderstood them, I want to be fair, that more than 50% of the gameplay occurs in the handheld mode. I'll go with that. So I would say 50% handheld, 50% plugged in, docked, and played on the television. Who cares? Like, I play only handheld. I've never docked it. I read that the screen scratches from the docking station. I don't want to screw up my screen. I like my Switch. And by the way, it's this big. It's like, it feels like a 65-inch TV screen. It's plenty big if you hold it close to your face. So I don't get it. I like the whole handheld mode. It's fine. It works. No, hybrid is just a gimmick. The reason the Switch works is it's a great device. It's the best handheld ever made. It's better than the PSP or the Vita, and it's got better software support. So that's what I'm going with that. No, Microsoft and Sony are never making handheld consoles. Ever, ever, ever. You? What do you think?
I'm with Team Handsome. I think 200 million is, I want whatever that Japanese analyst is smoking. I also think that Nintendo, given that they are Nintendo, will do the most Nintendo thing ever, and in about 18 months, lose fucking interest. Basically, people will say, oh, our third-party games are not selling as well. Why? Because Nintendo, being Nintendo, are doing the Nintendo thing and not really backing them. So I figure that it will stall out. If it stalls out 100 million...
Which is great.
Yeah, that's just phenomenal. I don't think it's going to get to 100 million either. And as much as I enjoy and like my Switch that I got for Christmas, that I asked for, and I have LA Noire on it, and I have the FIFA game because I like the Socha, and I have the Super Mario Odyssey, and I don't have Zelda because I still can't fucking stand Zelda games.
It's actually pretty good.
I just don't like, I've just never been able to get into them. And look, you love them. Amen, more power to you, fantastic. But I've got these 3 games for my Switch that are actually very, very enjoyable, and they keep me amused. But there's a reason that I am currently playing Far Cry 4 on my PS4 with my big 60-inch TV screen that isn't a hybrid console, because the Switch isn't perhaps delivering that experience. And people will say, oh, Zelda Breath of the Wild, isn't that the one that delivers it? Great. I just don't like Zelda games. Not my cup of tea. I don't like Link. I think he's a bitch. I think Link is a bitch, and Zelda should kick his ass.
You know, I wonder.
He never turns up on time to save her. He's just like Mario, who lets Princess Peach be taken by the Bowser guy, and it's just so wrong. But anyway,
used to be Donkey Kong taking her.
That's a whole different porno. But yeah, I like my Switch a lot. There are a lot of games that I will play for it, but I don't see Microsoft or Nintendo rushing into that. I think Microsoft or Sony just have to not do stupid shit to keep going forward. Microsoft have got a lot of catching up to do to even hit what Sony are doing without worrying about diversifying and trying to be like Nintendo. Nintendo have their little... Nintendo a toy company. They're not a games company. And I know I'm going to get hate for that, but I don't care.
Our next question from SIFTD from Wolf Ox 10. What will happen first? This is an easy one. Xbox 2, the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Oh, I don't care about that, but okay. Cyberpunk 2077 or Death Stranding. Okay, Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out in 2077, so you don't have to worry about that one. Death Stranding, I'd say, is next decade. Although I gotta say, the last trailer that we saw at VGA's was pretty good. Like, it seems like there's something going on. Final Fantasy VII Remake, I have no idea. That could be like next week. I don't even know.
It's not gonna be next week.
Yeah, and then Xbox 2 is the one that wins. Xbox 2 is coming in 2020, so I got a two-year vision here. Xbox 2. The other, Cyberpunk, is like 20 years from now. Final Fantasy is at least 2. Death Stranding is 2024. I'd say a better question: Death Stranding or GTA 6? That's a.
GTA 6.
They're about on the same.
Death Stranding or Fallout 5?
Fallout 5, baby.
One hopes. Todd, are you listening? Get off the beach. So I will actually say that Cyberpunk 2077 next year.
Really?
I will say that it's next year.
Could be.
I would also say though, didn't we get Xbox 2 with the Xbox One X terabyte fucking Scorpio edition? What was that one that came out last year that I pre-ordered and then I walked away from, so I got a Switch instead?
You got a Tesla 3. Xbox One X.
I'm still Team Audi. Yeah, I think Cyberpunk 2077, I think it's going to come out at the middle to the end of next year, and I think it's going to be awesome because even though I've never been able to get into and enjoy a Witcher game because it just seems too constricted and I don't like their...
You didn't play Witcher 3?
Oh, I played it.
I liked it.
I didn't like it that much. I think it's just the gameplay is a little too constrictive for me.
I hate swords, but I actually like the game.
But I also, from a personal perspective, hate the abuse of Celtic myths and legends by these guys because Geralt is a Welsh name, Celtic. Gwent is a country in Wales, not a fucking card game. And your ripping off of the Mabinogion is really pissing me off. But I really want to see
as well.
The Mabinogion it's basically great.
I knew Gwent was Welsh.
The Mabinogion is a Welsh book of legends.
I can't even say that word, so. Okay.
Well, I can also say lovely, isn't it?
Wow.
So yes, Cyberpunk 2020.
I want you to tweet that out.
I actually think I put on my Instagram of me saying that. Xbox 2. Well, yeah. Final Fantasy 7. Can't we just wait for a PS1 emulator? You know, they're going to have the PS1 Classic that they will sell for $49.99.
I hope they do that. That would be cool.
That would be great.
And it could look just like a PS1. How fun.
Yeah, a tiny little PS1. A keychain PS1.
Our last question this week, because we're just so long-winded, from SIFTD from Skimpy. What a great name, Skimpy. Skimpy, I love you. How much of an advantage is Sony's installed base of over 70 million units going to give it going into the next generation? Are PS Plus free monthly games and platform exclusives enough to move consumers to the inevitable PS5? What does Microsoft have to do to entice them away? Do I like brandy? So I read 2 volumes of the Winston Churchill biography in the 80s. I cannot remember the guy who wrote them, but it was supposed to be a 3-volume set. And the dude who wrote them wrote the first one when he was like 75, and the second one he was like 85, and he was working on the third one and he died. So it only is 2 volumes. So look it up. It's published in the mid 80s, and so the first one is Churchill from birth to like 1920, and the second one is Churchill from like 1920 through maybe 1940. So it's all his rise to prime minister, and then there is nothing else. So and he died in 65. So it doesn't have the rest. But I'm reading about Churchill. And Churchill was a very English guy. His mom was American, but very English guy. And so he liked English things. And there was only 2 things that he liked or 3, I guess, that the English didn't make, which were champagne, brandy, and cigars. So he smoked Cuban cigars, and there's a style of cigar called Churchill, named after him, big, long ones. They smoke forever. and he drank champagne and he drank brandy all day. Champagne comes from France. Cognac is what he drank, comes from France. So Churchill would wake up at 4 in the morning every day. He would go to bed at midnight every night. 4 hours sleep. He took a nap midday to refresh himself. But when he woke up, he poured himself a glass of cognac and he lit a cigar. And his glass of cognac was never empty till he went to bed, and he always had a cigar going. And so he decided he tried to be loyal to the Brits, and he wanted to drink British cognac, but they didn't make it. So there is a brand of cognac called Hine, H-I-N-E. The French pronounce it Ine, but it's Hine, because the Hine brothers in the 1700s decided, they're British, they decided they want to make cognac, and they moved to France to learn how to make cognac. And they lived at a cognac grape vineyard, and they learned how to make the grapes and how to bottle it and ferment it and do the right things to make cognac. And they ended up falling in love with some French girls and settling there and founding their own cognac vintner called Hine. And so even though it's 200 and some odd years old and it's considered French, it was founded by Brits. So the only cognac I drink is Hine. And so that's one I would drink if I were you. Back to the advantage Sony has. The advantage Sony has is that you clowns who own PlayStations are Sony fanboys. And I call you clowns because you're fanboys, not because you own PlayStations. There are Sony fanboys. There's kind of three things in life that people cling to. They cling to their console, their religion, and their school. So, and in the case of Welsh people, their country.
And their sports team.
That's what I said. They're a sports team if it's your, but it's your, right, exactly, your sports team. So if you're from San Francisco, you're a Giants fan, you hate the Dodgers, whatever. If you went to USC, you hate UCLA, whatever. If you're a Republican, you hate Democrats, whatever. If you have a PlayStation, you hate Xbox, whatever. It's like that all the way across the board. So PlayStation has a huge advantage because PS fanboys love PlayStation. And so Sony won with PS1 and PS2. They got their ass kicked with PS3 because it was too expensive, and people tried the Xbox. It was actually pretty good. But when the PS4 came out and it was actually cheaper than the Xbox One, they went back. And so PS5 always has an advantage unless Microsoft undercuts them on price. So yeah, I think it's an advantage going into the next cycle. Truthfully, I think Amazon and Apple are going to compete for your eyeballs with some device that's not called a console, like an Echo or an Apple TV, and you're going to be able to play games on those things. So I think you're going to see console hardware sales cut in half next cycle, but Sony's probably going to win the next cycle too. You.
Michael, I respectfully disagree.
That's fine.
I'm somebody who, throughout the PS3 lifespan, and I was never a PS2 fanboy. I had a PS1, which I really dug, and then I'm OG Xbox because I actually had, this is how sad I was as an original Xbox gamer. I had Obi-Wan, or Obi-Wank, as I like to call it. The second to worst Star Wars game ever after Star Wars Connect. But I hated the PS2. I thought it was a glorified DVD player. I didn't like many of the games. I thought they were too Asian focused. I didn't think there was enough third-party support.
Men? Heroes of Might and Magic?
Yeah, and exactly. So I was
Parappa
Xbox,
the Rapper?
and then I was Xbox.
Super Busta Move 2?
I was Xbox 360. I thought Microsoft did so much right from 360. And look, we could talk about Red Ring of Death. I got really lucky. I didn't have that major problem, I think, until towards the end of the life cycle. And that's where Microsoft started to taper off because they were obviously focused on the next thing, and Xbox 360 became a shovelware destination, much like the Wii did towards midway through its life. The PS3 started off abysmally. Sony went in with arrogance because they were the market leader. Sony went in with disdain for third-party support, and I know because I was a PR person in charge of third-party brands that were trying to work with Sony, and the shit we got from them was absolutely repugnant, and the way they treated companies was shitty as hell. And they got their asses handed to them on a plate early on, even though they had the technically more advanced console, because nobody wanted to deal with 37 different cell processors at once. Towards the end of the PS3, though, they really picked up. Insomniac came to the fore. We had Infamous 1 and 2. We had Ratchet and Clank. Killzone started to turn into a good franchise. I mean, it was a bizarre turn of events, ladies and gentlemen, and Microsoft were falling off. And Sony used that to push into PS4. They knew what they were doing. They knew that they had to step away from the lead of Japan for the PS4, and they brought that more into the Western environment and came out all guns blazing. The price was cheaper, the console was attractive, they had third-party support on exclusives, they had killer first-party apps, and they've continued to kill it from day one, whereas Microsoft rested on their 360 laurels too much and came up with a botched launch for Xbox One that, oh, it's this all-purpose, you know, cable box and DVR and DVD player, and it will make you margaritas while you stream games and look at porn in the corner, and nobody could understand what the fuck it was, not even Microsoft, who obviously said you can't play used games on it because it's all licensing, and people went no, and they went oh shit, but they were already right behind the curve. And Sony so far have not dropped the ball. We're what, 4 years into this now?
Yeah, 4
or 5. Sony have not dropped the ball. I mean, the PS Pro is doing very well. PSVR, one of my personal faves. I love my PSVR. I bought it last year. It's fun. It's not cutting edge, but it's titload of fun. And I think Sony, if they keep what they're doing and what they're doing right, their ads are better, their content is better. PS Plus is more fun than the Xbox equivalent. That, you know, Xbox Live, they started to copy Sony and giving away the free games. So I think if Sony stay the course and continue to evolve and not rest on their laurels, yes, this 70 million lead in is going to be smart, because I'm somebody who is, I'm not a Nintendo, Sony or Microsoft fanboy. I'm a games fanboy.
So I will say that you know, the first party strategy, they both have it, and obviously Nintendo has it. The studios are hit and miss, and so like Rare made some of my favorite games of all time, you know, back in the day, like Conquer. I mean, that was great, and Perfect Dark, the original, was really great.
I'll preempt you on
GoldenEye.
I'll preempt you on any of those games, because I played Rare games when they were Ultimate Play the Game on the Sinclair 48K Spectrum, when it was the Saberman trilogy, Saberwolf, Underworld, Nightlaw, Attic Attack, Alien 8, Gunsmoke.
God, Attic Attack, I forgot about that game.
Yeah, I played all those games the first time on a cassette tape.
And I think, and I don't, you know, I haven't played Sea of Thieves yet, so I'm not going to diss it out of hand, but it like looks to me very lame and just like whatever.
It looks like it looks like one fun bit from
let's be
Assassin's
a pirate.
Creed.
Yeah, let's be a pirate and drink some rum. But you know, the flip side is that, you know, I wasn't a big fan of Sucker Punch until Infamous, and it was great. I really thought Guerrilla Games was terrible with the early Killzones.
Yep.
And then the last Killzone and Horizon, again, I was uber skeptical of Horizon. What a fun game.
Horizon was my game of the year last year.
I mean, they just, so it's like, you know, and I don't know what it is. I mean, I would say these guys are just getting better. I mean, they're just more mature and experienced and better game makers. But their first party studios are so freaking good. And God of War has gone through a bunch of iterations, but honestly, Sony Santa Monica, good. Naughty Dog, who I remember Naughty Dog, Crash Bandicoot, you know, like, great game, but it's like nothing for 10 years, and then Uncharted 1, 2, 3, 4, Last of Us 1, 2, my God, what a great studio. So, you know, so the difference is that Sony has really put effort into first party. They've got results, and I don't know how to make art. I don't know how they do it, but they're good. And Microsoft, you know, Gears is really good, Halo's really good, but Forza is really good, but that's it. I can't name like a dozen other games out of Microsoft first party that are great. Right.
Sony also upped their third party game though, because on the PS3 they were atrocious. They really were on their support. But come the 4, and the people I'm talking to, they love the support. I mean, you see the ads now. I mean, I love the Opera Guy. The Opera Guy ad for PS4 Pro, and you see that there's baseball in there, and you see that there's Far Cry 5 in there, and they are really having some fun with it. Whereas Microsoft, I really hope that this Microsoft experience at E3 is the next level, because they are lagging behind. They're in 3rd place.
And by the way, I left out Media Molecule.
Yeah.
Media Molecule is what Rare was supposed to be when Rare went to the whole family-friendly thing. It's like Media Molecule owns that.
I'm sorry.
And even indie shit, you know, like that game company stuff. I mean, the Flower and the Journey. Those games are so great. It's like
Rare got neutered. Rare is so neutered. Rare needs to go back to Ashby de la Zouch, where they started, and they need to get the Stamper brothers involved and get back to just what they were doing that was fun, had a little bit of cheek about it, quintessentially British games. I mean, they were the precursor to Lionhead in a lot of ways, because Lionhead...
Who's gone.
Yeah, Lionhead's gone as well, but when we had the Fables, when we had those games, black and white, they had this bit of cheek about them, this little bit of balls, if you will, that the current Rare output doesn't have, and I miss those days.
Me too. That's it for this week's Pachter Factor, or Annoyed Pachter Factor. Thank you for joining us. Let's hope that you're joining us on SIFTD. You're getting this early because you're a Patreon patron, and we thank you for that. If you are watching on YouTube for free, please follow @SIFTD Games, @Michael Pachter, @Annoyed Gamer on Twitter, because we can use the follows. I have been lingering at the same follower count now for a month. Actually, if you go to Twitter Analytics, you can see your follower count and how it changes. I have this bar that goes like this for the last 30 days. I'd like to see it go up. So I need more followers. Would you tell your mom to follow me, please?